What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Onyxcoin today, XCN. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, all right? We're going to do a long-term analysis for Onyxcoin today at the request of Odias Fury. We're going to do this. You actually just made this request here. You said we need TA on XCN, where I do a deep dive in the long term. Be conservative with time schedules, all that stuff, right? Considering a bunch of different factors and stuff like that. Even the nightmare factor of going below 1 cent, stuff like that, as he says it. Coin market cap community is in sheer fear and bot infestation, is what he said. Okay, well, let's go over that. Sure, let's do some long-term stuff. The thing is with Onyxcoin, because it hasn't really had its own bull market, it hasn't had, this is its first bull market that it's ever been in. It is harder to do long-term analysis on things that are in their very first bull cycle, right? It is hard to do. So I think the best that we can do, and Odias actually did say this in his comment. He said, could we compare Onyxcoin to what the price might be if Bitcoin is already at 444K or something like that, right? Like what happens whenever Bitcoin's at its highs. So we're going to do some long-term stuff. Before we do that, I want to get into the short-term stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe. Let's get into it, okay? So 1 hour time frame, looking at this here, and maybe even the 15-minute time frame. Let's look at this going on Coinbase because we're on the short-term stuff. We'll go back to that all-time history chart in a second. 15-minute time frame here, you had a lot of volume. You actually had a lot of volume on this last 15-minute candle, and that does look like a breakout right there. This likely does imply lower prices to come, but we're on the 15-minute time frame, so that's nothing too dramatic, right? From a low to a high, we're on the weekend too. Typically, whenever you move down over the weekend, this actually implies that we will be moving up over the week. But the reason why we want today to move up, we don't want it to move lower, is because we want to get back into that bull flag range, right? We'll go over that in a second too. But looking at the 15-minute time frame, looking at the RSI, here, I would think that we make another drive lower, right? That's kind of what my expectation would be. Oh, but we do have low, higher, low, kind of. I don't know. I wouldn't call this a higher low here, right? Because it's still a lower low compared to that right there. So I wouldn't say this is double bullish divergence. I really do think you just broke out and you're probably going lower. Looking at that, breaking down below the 382, you're likely going to go down to the golden ratio at least. So 1.3 cents or lower. You're at 1.32 cents right now. Again, we're on the 15-minute time frame. It's nothing too dramatic, but lower prices from here are expected. Let's look at the 1 hour and see if that agrees. 1 hour RSI, yeah, the 1 hour RSI looks bad. Rejecting the 60 after getting oversold. I mean, hell, man, you broke out of your downtrend here, and you're not doing anything with it. Sometimes that happens, though. I mean, a good bit of the time that happens. You break out of your downtrend, you just kind of, you move sideways, you get some chop, and then you go up. Just because you break out of your downtrend doesn't mean you're done going lower. In fact, oftentimes you actually do go lower whenever you get that chop. If we are to go lower, let's say that we do go lower than this low here, the expectation would probably be around 1.23 cents or lower, right? Something like that, between 1.23 to 1.1 cents, which is the overall golden ratio of this this kind of overall range here. Right here, let me just show you. Low to high, right there, 1.23 cents, 1.12 cents. It's the same area that this that this 1414 to 1618 or 1886 area is right down here. So it might make sense that we do go down there. The 1 hour time frame certainly is suggestive of that, I would say. And then also just looking at this here, you did have an ascending triangle. You had higher lows and a flat top here, and you broke out of it to the downside. So when you're getting bullish patterns and breaking out of them bearishly, that's not necessarily encouraging for the immediate price, right? Looking at this on a 4 hour time frame, the 4 hour is kind of a saving grace. It actually reminds me a lot of Cookie Dow. I feel like I'm making a repeat here because the 4 hour is set up to have some bullish divergence. We've got how much time left? 48 minutes left in this. I mean, man, we can close lower and we're fine. As long as we don't push so far down on whatever 4 hour time frame we're closing, as long as we don't push so far down and close below this low and relinquish this bullish setup that we have on the 4 hour time frame, I think we're fine. So get that higher low, get a lower low in the price, whatever, bullish divergence, and then start building from there. That's kind of the expectation. You are moving down on the bright side. You are moving down with a very small amount of volume, huge lack in volume. We got 47 minutes left in this candle. I don't think that you're going to get above average volume on this. So moving down without volume is nice. But if volume starts to pick up, especially as we break below this low, that could be concerning, right? And again, it wouldn't surprise me if it went down to 1.23 cents. I'm not calling for that now. At this point in time, I would I am curious to see if we get this bullish divergence, if we will just move something like this, get like a higher low, a double bottom, maybe just slightly lower than that low, something like this, get that bullish divergence, and then bounce from here. We might have a little double bottom going on there. It looks just like Cookie, man. Like you look at the 4-hour time frame, it's like a very similar setup in the RSI here. Very, very similar setup, and even in the price. We'll see how it goes. I wonder how today closes. But the unfortunate thing about that is, if we come down, we only have 8 hours and 46 minutes left in this day, so we don't really have a whole lot of time to dilly-dally. If we close today below this trend line, I think at this point it would be official that this is a breakout. It's not a fake out. I mean, there's sometimes you get fake outs that last like 3 days or so, whatever. But normally no. I mean, if we do something like this, if we break out, even if we're here for like a whole week, but we break out and we're just right here and then we move back up, that would be a fake out technically still. Normally, and the reason why I've been going off this time frame, normally fake outs are a time-based thing and they happen whenever they happen super fast. But sometimes you get fake outs that last longer. Let's see. See if we can find an example of that. I know we could find one on Bitcoin, but every fake out like here, that was a fake out of this trend here. That was a fake out too, and immediately you went down. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it took a long time. Here, this was a fake out, and that was very, very short. So, and this was a fake out of these lows, and that was very short as well. No examples there, but on the Bitcoin chart, maybe we can find examples of that, just so I can show you that I'm not making this up here. Hold on, let's see. Let's see here. I mean, to be fair, we're not going to go there. That's reaching. I'm not going to reach. We want to find something that's legitimate. Let's see. I mean, here, okay, here, you did break out of this range, right? You broke out and you closed below it and you kept going lower the next day, and then you even closed another day below it and you went lower the next day, right? You had a double bottom. There's like 4 days that you were below this area breaking out, but you weren't breaking out. That was a fake out, right? And it lasted for about 4 days. You went in, you went out, you went in, you went out, but you could have spent all this time below and then still came up. That's still a fake out. So that's kind of a good example there. But normally it is a pretty fast thing. Normally it's not like if you break out and then you come back in, that's like a short-term fake out. But anyways, not that this is a fake out. That's not what that's not a fake out there. But let's move on. I'm getting a headache here, man. As long as we don't move too far down, I suppose the theory that this is a fake out still stands. But the lower we go, the more consistent we go, and especially if volume comes in. The other thing making me hesitant to call this a breakout is because I'm coping. No, it's because it's the weekend. It's the weekend, and weekend price action is not always the most reliable. Oftentimes, whenever you do move down over the weekend, you move up over the week. So as long as we're in this area and then we can move right back up over the week, I suppose we're fine. I would just like it would look better if we can just get up there. The sooner the better. You know what I mean? That's the most ideal situation. Right now, the area that we need to get to is about like 1.4 cents, essentially 1.37 cents, whatever, somewhere in that area there. And then, of course, if we can close today green or any day green from here, as long as this has a higher low on the RSI, we have bullish divergence, not just looking for it on the 4-hour time frame, but also on the daily time frame. And to mark the low in this long downtrend on the daily RSI, getting a higher low here, marking it with bullish divergence, fake out, that would be a very good kind of scenario to build a lot of bullish momentum to take us higher, right? Okay, so now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's talk about the long-term stuff. Let's try and do this real quick, okay? But low to high here, again, just remember, if we are to go lower, golden ratio is right there. It'll save the day, but it is a little bit lower. The unfortunate thing about going down here, you guys, is if we are breaking out of this bull flag, we find support here. I suppose it still could be considered as a fake out, but I don't know if I would consider that. I think at that point we've broken out of the bull flag. And then instead of considering 5 cents, this is why we're looking for that fake out so much. Instead of considering 5-cent targets where the bull flag measure move would take us, we would consider the 786, 886, which is still higher than here. Yes, 1.3 cents to 3.3 cents or 4 cents. I don't think anybody would be upset with that, but that would be the target area instead of the bull flag measure move. So that's why we're hoping that we can get back into this range sooner than later. But let's look at the long-term stuff. Let's try and do this here, okay? For the long term, because Onyxcoin hasn't existed for, it hasn't had a full bull cycle. It's only existed for one full bear cycle, and it's in the middle of this bull cycle now. I think it might be more appropriate to look at Bitcoin first, right? And I haven't done a long-term analysis on Bitcoin. I probably should do one. Maybe I'll do one later today, but we'll just do it. We'll do a brief little idea of it here, okay? typically, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who's said this, right? But we have said this before. Um, for most of this cycle, going back to 2022, even like the beginning of 2023, there, I was assuming that the end of this cycle would happen in October for Bitcoin. October is the month specifically, October 2025. Um, and if not there, maybe a month or two before, a month or two after. Sometime though in late Q3, if not late Q4, or somewhere in between of this year. That's the expectation, right? And the reason why is because of how we've moved historically. But the thing is that if we look at it, and I know every cycle, everybody wants to say, but this time's different. They're all different. Every cycle's different, but they're all the same, right? They all from seasonality, from cyclicality, they all have a very similar way of moving in time, right? But this cycle is different, man. We have institutional on ramps. We've got United States crypto reserve status. The rest of the world is taking on Bitcoin reserves. Companies all over the world are taking on Bitcoin reserves and various crypto reserves. Crypto is being looked at in a light that it's never been looked at before by the outside community, right? By people who are on the outside. Like the crypto community has always seen this as a possibility, as something that would happen, as an inevitability. But now the world, even people who are not a part of the crypto space, now they don't look at crypto as a scam. They look at it as something that's just above their pay grade. You know what I mean? I talk to people and are like, don't you have to be smart to do that? I'm like, hell no. Just buy. You can be a dummy with money. Just hit that buy button and you'll be fine. Don't hit the sell button though. Don't you do it. Depending on what you buy, of course. Depending on what you buy. But looking at this here, my expectation is that from a low to a high, we went to the 2272 here, or high to low. I'm sorry, why did I say low to high? High to low, we went to the 2272 there. You see it, right? 2272 there. High to low here, again, you went just above the 2272 here. If we take 2017's high to low, we didn't go to the 2272 this time. We went just above the 1618. I'm assuming that this cycle for Bitcoin, we will see the 2272 price being realized. I think that last cycle was weak shit. I think that we had monetary policy tightening. Quantitative tightening was going on. Interest rates were going up. Inflation was at crazy highs, like the highest rates that I've ever seen. Maybe they were higher at some point in my life, but that was the highest rates that I've ever seen. Ukraine-Russia conflict was happening like 2 months after the top. There's this one guy that liked to remind me, he's like, oh, it was 2 months later. But again, things like that, they don't just happen overnight. Conflicts don't happen overnight. These are tensions that we're building for a while, and the people that are at the top, they're aware of what's going on. Global money supply was tightening as well. Just a bunch of stuff that the DXY was expanding. There's all kinds of stuff. COVID, we're aftermath of COVID. There's all kinds of things that were happening here that, in my opinion, hurt last cycle. We don't really have that going on now, right? Other than like the threat of World War III or people who are concerned about that, we don't really have a whole lot of negative stuff going on right now. If anything, there's a lot of positive things that we're on the forefront of, right? We are literally about to see the global money supply increase and go to its next phase higher, right? Interest rates are likely going to come down soon. The tariff wars are calming down a little bit. China and the United States seem to be having an agreement, and they've come to an agreement on this trade war stuff, and that's probably going to be either put aside or put behind us here pretty soon. Quantitative easing is being considered to come back any month now, any day now. I mean, there's a whole lot of bullish prospects that are just right on the edge of happening. They just haven't happened yet. Where here, you got a lot of bearish stuff happening. So my thoughts are that by the end of this cycle for Bitcoin, we will see the 2272 and just above there, 462. And oftentimes, if you notice, the other two cycles that we actually did go above the 2272, or that we went to the 2272, we went just above it. So what's just above there that might be psychological resistance? That's $500,000. And if we move up, as we do at the end of every bull cycle, we see them the most. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but let me do this real quick. If you take a low here to a high here, I'm going to put it right here at this high. You know why I'm putting it at that high? Because this is the beginning of the bull cycle. This is the high before the halving. So that's your pre-halving move. The halving happened in November 28th of 2012. You take that low and you put it at the high there. This is your post-halving move. Notice how the post-halving move is dramatically bigger, and not only that, but the slope of this line is higher as well. It's at a steeper slope. So post-halving move, pre-halving move, post-halving move. You see the difference. We're going to do the same thing here. The next halving was July 2016, July 9th, and that was this month here. So this is your high before the halving. That's your pre-halving move right there. And then again, your post-halving move from a low, this is after the halving, that low there, to this high. Here's your post-halving move, dramatically bigger, and the slope is increased, okay? We're going to delete this stuff here real quick so that we don't have so much noise going on. Here, from a low, from the bull market low, to the high, right, because the halving was in May, so to be fair, this was your pre-halving move, a lot smaller. Your post-halving move started in May, right, not April. It was May 11th, so we're going to take the low there to this high here. And you can see that the post-halving move this time was bigger still, but the slope unfortunately was a little bit lesser, right? You've never seen that before up until this moment here. And the reason why is because of all those negative things that was happening, right? We had a double top. I think that if this move did what it was supposed to do, if we had that final blow off top kind of moment instead of a double top here, we would have had a steeper slope in this post-halving move, but we didn't get that. So we had a lower slope. Still though, the post-halving move was bigger than the pre-halving move. And if we take this, just this last this last 7 months of bull market here, that right there, that last 6 to 7 months, that slope actually was larger. The move was larger and the slope is larger or higher than our pre-halving move was, right? So in essence, every single cycle that we've seen, Bitcoin finishes with a bang, right? The last 6 months, the last quarter of a year, whatever, half a year, more than that, is very, very bullish, okay? I'm anticipating that Bitcoin ends this cycle again in like late 2025, but I'm starting to consider that we don't, right? And here's the thing that I've actually been holding off on, is that we might end this cycle in 2026. And I haven't said that all cycle. We're getting to the point, and the reason why I think we could is because we've never seen a cycle where we were so constructive, where we had 6 months, 7 months of sideways, 8 months, 9 months of sideways, right? Or 7 months, 8 months, however much it was, 6 months, 5 months. We've never seen this many. If you go back in time and you look, I mean, here you did move sideways a lot, but this isn't constructive. This is kind of like volatile, right? You moved up a lot and you had the repercussions because of it, COVID, all that stuff, right? But this was not constructive on the way up, just absolute mania on the way up post-halving, right? Here we are post-halving still being constructive. This cycle might extend in time, and with that, maybe the price that I'm predicting at 500K, maybe that does happen still, but maybe it doesn't happen by the end of this year, right? Maybe it happens at a different time. So prepare yourselves for these targets to be a little bit thrown off, right? A little bit as far as timing goes. If we're looking at Onyxcoin here and comparing Bitcoin to $500,000, right? Let's look at that now. Now that we've got all that set up and we can fully understand, hopefully, why I think that Bitcoin will go to 500K, I think that'll help us understand where Onyxcoin will go too, right? We're looking at this on a weekly time frame. I would assume that by the end of the cycle, Onyxcoin does see new all-time highs versus Bitcoin, okay? But let's say it doesn't. Let's say it doesn't. Let's say that we move up here, right? You had a move, and you can see that most of the cycle we've been in this range. Let's say that we move up here, and this is it, man. This is it. Let's say that we're only here by the end of the cycle. What kind of numbers can we deduce? Kind of in the middle of this range, right? If you take a low here, put it the low. That's not even the middle, is it? Low to high. Let's put it more in the middle. Let's go like right here in the middle. Yeah, there you go. Right there. That's in the middle. So what is that? 5 zeros. 5 zeros, 3, 2, 3. I haven't heard anything about the... oh, I thought I was on Onyx. Where is it? Right here. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the AMA, so I'm thinking it's probably going to happen soon, guys. I mean, we're in the second half of the month now, so, or tomorrow we will be in the second half of the month. Google calculator, 5 zeros, 3, 2, 3, right? Why isn't it letting me? What's going on here? That's so weird. All right, 3, 4, 5, 5 zeros, 3, 2, 3. Am I right? 5 zeros, 3, 2, 3. Yes, 3, 2, 3, 3, whatever. We'll just do that. If Bitcoin was at $500,000, what price would we get? And let's assume actually that Onyxcoin doesn't top. Here's the thing too. When Bitcoin tops off, typically, let's do this real quick before we get to this next part, okay? Compare it to others. New price scale. I don't want it on the same price scale. Log it, okay? And we're not going to use a line. We're going to make it candlesticks, okay? I hope it's obvious as to which one's which. Bitcoin is kind of the deeper colors, but if this is hard for you to tell, let me just make the candle bodies white. It doesn't really matter what, you know. I feel like this is more obvious now. Others, this is the altcoin chart. This is the Bitcoin chart, okay? I'm going to do something real quick, and then we'll move back on to the point. Hopefully, if I remember what I'm talking about, I will move back on to the point that I was just saying. So here was the end of the 2017 cycle for Bitcoin. Here was the end of the 2021 cycle for Bitcoin. Okay, if you notice, altcoins topped off a month after. Altcoins topped off a month after, and actually even continued to run. What I'm trying to say here, and actually on November we did have the same high here, but if you're considering this is the end of the cycle for Bitcoin, which I am, it was a month after that we kind of ended the cycle for altcoins too. Maybe we didn't top off, but we did end the cycle, right? What I'm getting at is that to calculate this price of Onyxcoin versus Bitcoin and then multiply it by 500,000, that's not going to be fair, because typically Bitcoin tops off before altcoins top off. So Bitcoin probably won't be at 500K. It'll be at 400 something thousand dollars. I don't think that it's going to drop below 400K by the time altcoins drop, right? If it saw that kind of a drop, we would just be in the bear market for everything. But let's say Bitcoin's at like, let's just say 400K, and then we'll do like 460K, and we'll get a range. Okay, so 400K, that's $1.29. Which makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Actually, I'm glad. I was like, I don't know what kind of targets. If we're getting a $5 target here, I'm gonna have to rethink my whole logic here. Or if we got like an 82-cent target, that would suck. But 82 cents to like a $2 target, just above the 1-4-1-4, very common. So right within that range, that's good. And we made logic out of it. I mean, this is even on the pessimistic side. I think that this is fine. If we take 5 zeros, 323. We multiply it by, let's say, 460K. Because I think Bitcoin, maybe it's at 480, maybe it's at 460, but I want to be more conservative, right? That's what Odias asked, was conservative anyways. And I feel like this is more realistic. Okay, $1.50 by the end of the cycle, right? But again, when does Bitcoin top off? That's the question. Will it be by the end of this year? It could be. I mean, dude, the last 6 months of every cycle, it's very, very bullish stuff. It could be. It really could be. But that would put us at about $1.50, okay? If Onyxcoin were to be at new all-time highs versus Bitcoin, which I don't know if it will, because if we were to go all the way up here, you guys, we're getting targets that are going to be dramatically higher, right? That's at 403. We're at 503. I don't think that we're going to see a $10 price for Onyxcoin. That's not going to happen by the end of this cycle, right? So I really do believe that with this next phase up, Onyxcoin will probably see a lot of growth, right? We'll probably stop here. We'll probably stop right at like this lower yellow line versus Bitcoin with this next phase up. And then the rest of the cycle, the majority of our growth versus Bitcoin will have been done, but we will still be climbing higher slowly and then topping off. And that tends to be how cycles end, right? You get a bullish move, you get a more bullish move or a less bullish move or whatever, and then as you're topping off, you kind of taper off. You taper off, right? Typically, not for Bitcoin. Bitcoin likes to blow off top instead, but typically the more typical thing to do is to taper off, and that kind of might make sense there. Maybe we do go all the way up to 3065, but if we were to go to 3065, Onyxcoin would have to top off well before Bitcoin or after Bitcoin. I don't know if we go up that high. But I could see stuff like this happening, right? So this is making sense out of $1.48, and this is just a very rough estimation. Just because it doesn't line up with targets that are around $2 doesn't mean $2 can't happen. It absolutely can. I'm taking it from 50323. What if by the end of the cycle, Onyxcoin versus Bitcoin is at 505? And if we're at 505 there, and Bitcoin's at 460,000 again, by the time Onyxcoin tops off, that's $2.30. You know what I mean? I don't think that we'll see that happen. I don't think $2. I think that's a little bit too high in my opinion. But you see what I mean? It's not a exact science, but there are scenarios that make sense if Onyxcoin can return back up to these highs by the end of the cycle, and I think it will. I think we're in this massive kind of bull flag of a consolidation phase in itself on the Onyxcoin BTC chart. I think that will take us back to this zone here. It definitely justifies the price targets that we have in mind that are between 82 cents and $2, $2.14 by the end of the cycle. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know, that went on way longer than I meant for it to, but we had to cover a lot of bases, right? Because if I just start throwing lines on here and I'm like, well, just trust me, it's going to go here. I mean, I do that a good bit of the time because I'm just like, I don't want to do all this. I don't want to take the time to do all this, but it's been a while since we've done some long-term analysis on Bitcoin, and I've been actually wanting to anyways. So you guys got a little taste of what probably the next Bitcoin video will be like, or the long-term analysis video will be like. So I got nothing else for you guys. I really do appreciate you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all. And as far as timing goes, if you're wondering, okay, but what about the timing? I mean, a month after Bitcoin tops off. Well, when's Bitcoin going to top off? I don't know, man. At this point, it really could be 2026. We might go to 500K still, and it'll just be in like Q1 or Q2 of 2026. Maybe the cycle persists longer, but don't cling to that idea, right? If you cling to that idea now and then we're at 500K in October, understand that's the top. That's the top. You know what I mean? If we get this, but if Bitcoin keeps being constructive, if it does move slower, I mean, it could extend. We've never seen a cycle this constructive for Bitcoin. We've never seen a cycle with all these different fundamental factors at play in the geopolitical and economical kind of atmosphere for Bitcoin. So it's very possible that this cycle could be different, but until then, we're just going to maintain the stance that probably, if I had to guess, if I had to bet money on it, and I am betting money on it, I would say probably November or December for Onyx Coin. October, November, December, that's when I think we would top off. And that's when I think Bitcoin's going to top off too, somewhere in that time frame. So hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. All right, take care. Bye.